When many Christians think of Japan, they tend to think of anime, the good food, and maybe the feudal life of samurai. And I feel like recently, the culture of Japan is a lot more popular, and I see a lot more shirts with Japanese writing, anime stickers on cars, tons of Japanese shows on Netflix, and a ton of TikToks and Reels that talk about the best places to visit in Japan. And after visiting there about 10 times and moving there back in 2022, I can say that Japan is an incredible place. It's downright immaculate, and you'll be hard-pressed to find any trash on the floor. It's also incredibly safe, much safer than the United States, and anyone could walk around anywhere in the country, no matter how late it is, and still be fine. On top of that, it's technologically advanced, and they have an incredibly efficient public transportation system, and most people there don't need cars to go around. And when it comes to the people, the large majority of them are respectful, hardworking, and they have a strong desire to do an excellent job no matter what they do. However, while Christians can see Japan as this fun, clean, and amazing place on the surface, on a spiritual level, Japan is hurting, and most Christians don't understand just how bad it is over there. So as someone who has a heart for Japan, I've compiled a list of 3 prayer requests so that Christians everywhere can be informed of Japan's needs and so that they can give Japanese Christians support through prayer. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching our videos, and if you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, if you'd like to support us more, you can become a member by clicking the Become a Member link in the description below. For the price of a coffee every month, you can help support our work to spread the gospel. Also, I recently made a new design for some of our shirts and sweaters. With our Impact logo, I attached the Japanese phrase chotozutsu, which is translated little by little. And my goal in making this design is to remind believers that in order to make an impact on the people around us, we need to focus on making the small steps in our walk with God. Unlike some of our other designs, we're offering this exclusively in apparel only. So if you'd like one, or if you'd like to support us in this way, you can click the link in the description below. And on top of shirts and hoodies, we also have some stickers, pins, and phone cases if you'd like to get those. And lastly, we're also starting to roll out some of our thumbnail designs for other products as well, so also be on the lookout for those. Again, the link is in the description below, and thank you so much for your support, and back to the video. Prayer request number 1. Pray for more Christians to move to Japan. Matthew chapter 9, verse 37. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few." In this passage, Jesus was speaking to his disciples, and Jesus tells them that while the harvest is plentiful, there's not enough laborers to help with the work. And when I moved to Japan back in 2022, I remember feeling incredibly helpless when seeing just how much help Japan needed. According to data.worldbank.org, in 2023, Japan's population was about 124 million. And multiple websites, as well as every missionary I've spoken to in Japan, all agree that the Christian population in Japan is 1% of the total Japanese population. So that's about 1 to 2 million people out of all of the people in Japan. I remember asking a good friend of mine named Kyohei, who's a Japanese Christian, what Christian persecution is like. And he told me that Christian persecution does not exist because no one knows what a Christian is. And while many Christians think that only 1% of the Japanese population are believers, a Japanese pastor informed me that the numbers are argued to be less than 1%. And the reason why is because some people believe that because they went to a Christian school or because they had a Christian-style wedding, then they must be a Christian. On top of that, according to Tribune.org, the average church size is 23. But I've also been told from others that serve in Japan that the number is closer to 20 or maybe even 12. And the number of people who go to church weekly is probably even less than that. So one of the prayers that I have regularly prayed for when it comes to Japan is that God would send more pastors, teachers, evangelists, prophets, apostles, missionaries, and Christians to Japan. Back before I moved there, I remember feeling incredibly sad because of all my family and friends that I'd be leaving behind. My mom, dad, sister, and brothers live in California. Also, I was surrounded by my close friends that I've grown up with, and at the time, I had the best job that I could ever want. I was a Bible teacher, getting paid for what I loved to do. I was a coach, and I felt like I was part of a team. And I had a church that I went to, and multiple ministries that I was helping out in. But the more I saw how blessed I was, the more it convicted me when I thought of the people in Japan who don't have a fraction of what I have. Many Japanese people don't have family or friends they can talk to because most of them are too busy with work to connect. On top of that, when I went to Christian youth camps here in California, I'd always get sad because as I saw about 100 or so young junior high and high schoolers in a room learning about God, I'm quite certain there isn't a regular youth camp of that size anywhere in Japan. So all that to say, when it came to me moving to Japan, the very reason why I wanted to stay in California, which was to stay with my family and loved ones, fueled me and my desire to go to Japan because many Japanese people don't have what I've been blessed with. So as you think of Japan, understand that church does not look like church here in the US. The average church size is about 12 to 20, and about 1% of the total population are Christian, which means if you were to put a random sample size of 100 Japanese people in a room, one or no Christians would be in that room. So if you think of Japan, pray that God would send more workers to that field so that more Japanese people can be reached. Prayer request number 2, pray for victory against strongholds. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 3-4. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds. In this passage, Paul speaks to the Corinthian church about how Christians use weapons that are powerful enough to pull down strongholds. And the weapons he refers to aren't physical weapons, but spiritual ones. So note that when it comes to the strongholds of the enemy that believers have the power to tear down, those strongholds are spiritual. So in Japan, there are specific spiritual strongholds that have a grip on the Japanese people, and I'm going to list some of the struggles that they have here in this video. So let's start with the first one, suicide. According to Japan Times, in 2023, 21,000 people died in Japan due to suicide. And to give you more perspective, according to WashingtonExaminer.com/news, more people in Japan died by suicide in October 2020 than all the people who died due to COVID that year. Also, there's a forest in Japan known as Suicide Forest, where a lot of Japanese go to end their life. And on top of that, many Japanese buildings have safety nets around the building to dissuade workers from jumping off and committing suicide at work. Next problem, mental health. One of the reasons why they commit suicide is because the Japanese have this hyperfixation on honor and perfection. So if they fail to measure up, they lose honor and will feel like suicide is the only way to handle their shame. According to a Japan Mission statistic, 11% of Japanese question why they were born, and 85% of youth wonder why they exist. Something that also hurts the mental health of the Japanese people is a very toxic work culture. According to the Japanese Ministry of Health in 2023, on average, 10 to 15% of workers work 60-plus hour work weeks. So many Japanese people will prioritize work over family and will be the first ones to get to work and the last ones to leave. And because of this, many parents leave their children alone and are left to raise themselves. Bullying is also a big deal in Japan, and an animated movie titled A Silent Voice does a good job depicting bullying in Japan. Another thing that's a problem there is something called hikikomori, and this word is a noun and describes a person who avoids social contact. And according to Nippon.com, the Japanese government estimates these to be about 1.15 million people aged between 15 to 64 years old. But some officials suggest that the number is closer to about 2 million people. And these people are individuals who have not left their house or had any social interaction at all for at least 6 months, and for some, it's been years. A psychiatrist by the name of Saito Tamaki quotes, "Hikikomori are defined as having spent 6 months or more not participating in society without mental illness being the cause." And Saito thinks that this population of people could even reach 10 million. Another problem in Japan is the sexual immorality there. I know it takes different forms in different countries, and in Japan, it surfaces in quite a few ways. One way it surfaces is in the fact that pornographic material is in every convenience store. So in Japan, there's different convenience stores everywhere. 7-Eleven is one of them, and they have other convenience stores called Family Mart and Lawson. And these stores are literally on every corner and are great, and you can get meals with rice, vegetables, and meat for a cheap price. Also at these places, you can get basic household items, basic ingredients for cooking, anything you'd need for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And at the magazine section, there's always pornographic magazines that are easily accessible. On top of that, according to DW and The Diplomat, in 2023, Japan raised the age of consent to age 16. Prior to that, it had been 13 years old for decades. And finally, While prostitution is illegal, certain Japanese workers have found loopholes in the law and essentially still have sex for money. Another thing the Japanese struggle with is being polite to a fault. Now, if you go to Japan, the culture seeks to accommodate the community. For example, the Japanese are mindful to keep things clean for everyone. So if you go to Japan, you'll soon find that trash cans are an endangered species because despite the fact that there's hardly any trash cans, there's hardly any trash. On top of that, when you're in a train or bus, they're normally very quiet so they can be considerate to everyone around them. The general rule of thumb is to match the volume of the room. So if the room is quiet, you should be quiet too so you don't disrupt the peace. Now don't get me wrong, being clean and being quiet are things that I appreciate and I value. But understand that most Japanese people want to be so considerate that they won't burden anyone with anything, meaning that many will refuse to get help even if they need it. And they won't tell people what they're really thinking out of fear that they'll be inconsiderate or disrespectful for burdening others with that knowledge. So because of this, many Japanese people struggle with making meaningful friendships and connections. So all that to say, I know I just bombarded you with a lot of information, but pray against all of these things in Japan. Against suicide, the sexual immorality, the shame that comes with not being perfect, the bullying, and the mental illness. You see, all of these things are the result of different spiritual strongholds that are currently present in Japan. And prayer request number 3, pray for boldness for the Japanese people. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 5. But you be watchful in all things, endure afflictions, do the work of an evangelist, fulfill your ministry. In this passage, one of the things that Paul tells Timothy to do is to do the work of an evangelist. And the word evangelist refers to someone who proclaims the gospel. And this is something that's really difficult for Japanese Christians to do. One quote that's been used to describe the Japanese culture is, "The nail that sticks up will be hammered down." So most Japanese people won't do anything that's too out of the ordinary because the norm is to match everyone else in their society. So the thought of Japanese Christians witnessing and sharing the gospel to their friends is difficult to do because no one else does it. On top of that, when Japanese people become Christian, many of them are ostracized and kicked out of their families because Christianity doesn't align with their family traditions. So as you think of Japan, I would encourage you to pray that Japanese Christians would have the boldness to preach the gospel to their friends and family, and that Japanese unbelievers would have the boldness to make a decision to follow Jesus, regardless of the consequences that may follow. So, if you think of Japan, as someone who has a heart for Japan, I would ask you to please pray for 3 things. Pray for more Christians to move to Japan, pray for victory against strongholds, and pray for boldness for the Japanese people. Honestly, there's so many things to pray for when it comes to the Japan mission. And I know that many of my missionary friends will watch this video and say, "What? You forgot this?" And they're definitely right. So consider this a short summary of the many needs of the nation. But in short, Japan needs Jesus. And the goal for this video was to spread awareness and to encourage Christians everywhere to pray for a country that's hurting spiritually. And if I can be selfish, please pray for my Japan team and my gym in Japan. A team of 9 people that were all based in California moved to Japan November 2024, and our goal is to start a house church where we all befriend and invite one person to our home fellowship. And also, pray for me and my wife. We are currently being hired to be fitness trainers at a gym near Tokyo, and the goal is to use fitness as a platform for discipleship. So, thank you so much for your prayers, and I hope that you remembered today that Jesus loves you.
All right, well, that wraps up this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If this video was a blessing to you, please consider liking, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. I also want to say a big thank you to our newest members who joined up, our impactors. Guys, your support helps us so much. It keeps the lights on at Impact, and it means the world to us. So thank you all for joining, for supporting us, for believing in the work that we're doing. If you're interested in becoming a member, please click the link in the description below where it says join or become a member. For the price of a cup of coffee every month, you could be supporting the work that we're doing here at Impact, and it would really mean a lot to us. So thank you so much. I also want to say a big shout out to our Impact team, the people who actually made this video possible. This would be our writers, our storyboard people, our whiteboard people, our editors, editors, our thumbnail artists, our animators. I've probably missed a few others, but these guys are awesome. We really think you'd enjoy checking out their content that they do outside of Impact. This would be all the things that we put in the links in the description for their names under the credits. So give them some love, check them out. We think you'd enjoy that. And the last thing I want to say is we're starting to roll out a lot of merch. So if you are interested in getting something from Impact and the Impact team and what we're designing, we've tagged a lot of the things in the video itself on this video, but we also have links in the descriptions to our store. So if you're interested in getting something from our merch store, feel free to check those out. We'd love for you to see all the things that we have available there. All right, I've been yammering way too long, so thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you next time. My name is Joe. This is Impact. God bless.